Hello everyone, my name is Malika Chattopadhyay and I wanted to share my favorite quotes from the book The Idiot by Fyodor Dostoevsky. Here's the cover. I really like the art in here. It uses some degree of pointillism, if you can see from the art, and I just really like this book. This book has themes of disability, social commentary, unique, memorable qualities and characters. And one quote that stuck out to me the most is, "It's a harsh indictment of the Russian ruling class of his day who have created a world which cannot accommodate the goodness of this idiot." So basically, it stems from this Jesus-like character who is very ethical and very good, and it's a social critique of how the Russian ruling class is not able to be welcoming to a good person or a morally good person, and he goes through a lot of adversity. I'll read the back to you. So Prince Myshkin returns to Russia from an asylum in Switzerland as he becomes embroiled in the frantic amatory and financial intrigues which center around a cast of brilliantly released characters and which ultimately lead to tragedy. He emerges as a unique combination of the Christian ideal of perfection and Dostoevsky's own views, afflictions, and manners. His serene selflessness is contrasted with the worldly qualities of every other character in the book. Dostoevsky supplies a harsh indictment of the Russian ruling class of his day, who have created a world which cannot accommodate the goodness of this idiot. So he has a serene selflessness. I really like that word or phrase, serene selflessness. It's almost godlike, it's divine, and it shows that people, however they are religious, are not able to perform goodness for those who are truly divine. And it's contrasted because the other characters are very worldly. They're very obsessed with the world and how much they can get out of other people. And it reminds me of people with autism, honestly, because the idiot, people with disabilities were also called idiots. It was a slur against the differently abled. And it reminds me of how he probably had some kind of autism where he couldn't really understand or acknowledge social hierarchy, and he couldn't understand how malicious people can be because he viewed the world from his point of view, which is with this serene selflessness. I really like this phrase. His serene selflessness is contrasted with the worldly qualities of everyone else. Alright, let's get started with some of the quotes that I really liked. The first quote I liked is, "The eldest was a musician, the second painted remarkably well, but this had not been generally known till lately. People talked with horror of the number of books they had read. They were in no hurry to get married. They valued belonging to a certain circle in society, yet not to excess. This was the more remarkable as everyone knew the attitude, the character, the aims, and the desires of their father." So this was about a family of women, and it really shows that women who are educated are terrifying to society. All right, beginning the next quote. Quote, "Perhaps that's why I talk so much. Ever since yesterday, I keep longing to talk Russian." And end quote. He should see if making friends with the bears comes naturally to him, and he really likes talking in Russian, and I kind of relate to that with Bangla. I really like this quote because it shows that the reason for keeping the guillotined fated one hostage for days is to pressure the horrors and fears. So, quote, "If there were torture, for instance, there would be suffering and wounds, bodily agony, and so all that would distract the mind from spiritual suffering, so that one would be only tortured by wounds till one died. But the chief and worst pain may not be in the bodily suffering, but in one's knowing for certain that in an hour, and then in 10 minutes, and then in half a minute, and then now, at the very moment, the soul will leave the body, and that one will cease to be a man, and that that's bound to happen. And worst part of it is that it's certain. When you lay your head down under the knife and hear the knife slide over your head, that quarter of a second is the most terrible of all. You know this is not only my fancy. Many people have said the same. I believe that so thoroughly that I'll tell you what I think. To kill for murder is punishment incomparably worse than the crime itself. Murder by legal sentence is immeasurably more terrible than murder by brigands. Anyone murdered by brigands, whose throat is cut at night in a wood, or something of that sort, must surely hope to escape till the very last minute. There have been instances when a man has still hoped for escape, running for or begging for mercy after his throat was cut. But in the other case, all that last hope, which makes dying 10 times as easy, is taken away for certain. There is the sentence, and the whole awful torture lies in the fact that there is certainly no escape, and there is no torture in the world more terrible. You may lead a soldier out and set him facing the cannon in battle and fire at him, and he'll still have hope. But read a sentence of certain death over that same soldier, and he will go out of his mind or burst into tears. Who can tell whether human nature is able to bear this without madness? Why this hideous, useless, unnecessary outrage? Perhaps there is some man who has been sentenced to death, been exposed to this torture, and has been told, "You can go, you are pardoned." Perhaps such a man can tell us. It was of this torture and of this agony that Christ spoke too. No, you can't treat a man like that. And I really, really, really like the kind of prose that goes on with the torture of waiting for death. The next quote I really like is, "I can't marry anyone. I'm an invalid." And I really like this dissection of the word invalid because it translates to invalid, that you are not valid. And it is an ableist word, and it refers to having a disability. And the word is very fascinating because it says that the human is not valid. They are not valid in having a relationship and having marriage and having this and having that, like a typical human being. They are not worthy of that. They are invalid of that. The next quote I just really like because it's very feminist. It says, "Lizaveta Prokofievna was becoming more capricious and impatient every year. She was even becoming rather eccentric, but as her well-trained and submissive husband was always at hand, her pent-up moods were usually vented upon him, and then domestic harmony was restored and all went well again." I really love it. That's on page 33. Next quote I like, "You know how to be happy? I can't teach anything." Mishkin laughed. "I spent almost all my time abroad in the same Swiss village. I rarely went excursions and only to a short distance. What could I teach you? At first I was simply not dull. I soon began to grow stronger. Then every day became precious to me, and more precious as time went on, so that I began to notice it. I used to go to bed very happy and get up happier still, but it would be hard to say why. When the sad state lifts, when that depression lifts, it feels like life has become easier and that every day is a blessing." All right, next quote. Quote, With your quietism one might fill 100 years of life with happiness. If one shows you an execution, or if one holds out one's finger to you, you will draw equally edifying reflections from both and be quite satisfied. Life is easy like that. Life is just a matter of reflecting. It's a matter of reflecting, and it is a matter of genuinely living in the moment. When you reflect, it shows that you have lived in the moment enough that you are able to reflect on it. And you have that maturity to reflect on it. So life is easy like that. Just not having anger and nervousness and anxiety, but just saying, this is my experience. I have felt the experience thoroughly, and I have let myself process the experience, and I can reflect on it and learn from it. The next quote, "I assure you that, thanks to them, she died almost happy. Thanks to them, she forgot her bitter trouble. They brought her, as it were, forgiveness, for up to the very end she looked upon herself as a great sinner. They were like birds beating their wings against her window and calling to her every morning, 'Nous t'aimons, Marie.' She died very soon." The next prose that I want to read is very brilliant. It just expresses the childlike wonder and selflessness and it's very unparalleled. I really like this prose. I quote, "He told me that he had come to the conclusion that I was a complete child myself, altogether a child, that it was only in face and figure that I was like a grown-up person, but in development, in soul, in character, and perhaps in intelligence, I was not grown up, and that so I should remain if I lived to be 60. I laughed very much. He don't like being with grown-up people. He was wrong, of course, for I am not a child, but in one thing he is right. I don't like being with grown-up people. I've known that a long time. They say to me, however kind they are to me, I always feel somehow oppressed with them, and I am awfully glad when I get away to my companions, and my companions have always been children. Not because I'm a child myself, but simply because I always was attracted by children. When I was first in the village, at the time when I used to take melancholy walks in the mountains alone, when sometimes, especially at midday, met the whole noisy troop running out of school with their satchels and slates, with shouts and games and laughter, my whole soul went out to them at once. I don't know how it was, but I had a sort of intense, happy sensation at every meeting with them. I stood still and laughed with happiness, looking at their little legs forever flying along, at the boys and girls running together, at their laughter and their tears, for many of them managed to fight, cry, make it up, and begin playing again on the way home from school. And then I forgot all my mournful thoughts. Afterwards, for the last 3 years, I couldn't even understand how and why people are sad. My whole life was centered on the children. So I just really like the way that children heal quickly and live so ferociously. It reminds me of Palestine, it reminds me of Sudan, it reminds me of how the children in the midst of genocide in Palestine have created kites from their tarp and broken sticks, and they've made kites among the rubble and have flown it, and then they had the courage to smile, and they live so ferociously and so beautiful, and it reminds me of that. The next quote, "Now I am going among people. I know nothing, perhaps, but a new life has begun for me. I determine to do my work resolutely, and honestly. I may find it dull and difficult among people. In the first place, I resolve to be courteous and open with everyone." That's such a philosophy, and I agree to it to a T. Now I am going among people. I know nothing, perhaps, but a new life has begun for me. I determine to do my work resolutely and honestly. I may find it dull and difficult among people. In the first place, I resolved to be courteous and open with everyone. But can I be an idiot now, when I am able to see for myself that people look upon me as an idiot? As I come in, I think, I see they look upon me as an idiot, and yet I am sensible, and they don't guess it. I often have that thought. And he starts to see that maybe he's not an idiot. The next quote. "I know that one doesn't often meet people whom one likes from the first, yet here I've come straight from the railway station, and I meet you. I know very well that one's ashamed to talk of one's feelings to everyone, but I talk to you without feeling ashamed. I'm an unsociable person, and very likely I may not come to you again for a long time. Besides you being very good looking, one feels when one looks at you." And I just think that's one of the most marvelous compliments. Besides your being very good looking, one feels when one looks at you. She has the face of a kind sister. You approach one simply and gaily, but you are quick to see into the heart. That's how your face strikes me. Wow, I just love that, the way he talks about his love. You can see he's kind of like an idiot in love there. The next quote, "I believe your character's like mine exactly, like 2 drops of water, and I'm glad of it. Only you are a man and I am a woman. And I haven't been to Switzerland. That's the only difference." "I believe your character is like mine exactly, like 2 drops of water, and I'm glad of it. Only you are a man and I am a woman." What a love. What a realization of love. Next quote, "It's difficult to judge beauty. I am not ready yet. Beauty is a riddle. I love that quote. I love that quote. Okay, next one. Quote, "Such beauty is power," said Adelaida warmly. "With beauty like that, one might turn the world upside down." It just feels like the artist is recognizing art here. Next quote, "For the heart is the great thing, and the rest is all nonsense." I love that quote. Next one. Some of these quotes, there's no notes, there's no explanation, there's no reflection. The quote itself is just incredible. Quote, "That word I only ask for as a sign of your sympathy and compassion for me. Only that, nothing more, nothing. I dare not dream of hope, for I am not worthy of it. But after a word from you I can accept my poverty again. I shall joyfully endure my hopeless lot. I shall face the struggle. I shall be glad of it. I shall rise up again with renewed strength." Love this. I can't. Next one. At the first word, one could see that she was of an earnest disposition and had genuine dignity. In spite of her melancholy air, one felt that she had firmness and even determination. She was very modestly dressed in some dark color, in an elderly style, but her manner, her conversation, all her ways betrayed that she was a woman who had seen better days. So, Dostoevsky's characters appear in one way and have hidden characteristics, kind of like the idiot. He appears to be an idiot, but hidden within him is he knows he's an idiot, or he knows people see him as the idiot. I just love how all of his characters are so very nuanced in appearance. Okay, next one. This is another quote. Quote, "Nastasia Philippovna did not refuse luxury. She liked it, indeed. But strange as it seemed, she was not in the least a slave to it. Apparently she could have done without it at any moment. She even took the trouble to say so plainly on several occasions, which made an unpleasant impression on Totski. There was much, however, in Nastasia Philippovna which struck him unpleasantly and subsequently even moved him to contempt. Apart from the inelegance of the class of people with whom she sometimes associated, and to whom she must therefore have been attracted, she displayed other very strange propensities. She showed a sort of savage mingling of two tastes, a capacity for being satisfied and putting up with things, and means of which one would have supposed that a well-bred and refined person would not admit the existence. In fact, if Nastasia Philippovna had displayed an elegant and charming ignorance of the fact, for instance, that peasant women were not in a position to wear the batiste garments that she did, Afanasy Ivanovitch would probably have been extremely pleased." Next one. "And the servant?" asked Nastasia Philippovna, not disguising her intense disgust. So they were talking about consciousness and politics, and she says, "And the servant?" And she has this intense disgust for people who don't consider others. I love that. I love Nastasia's character. Next quote. "Who wouldn't have been fascinated sometimes by that woman so that he would forget reason and everything? You see that lout Rosogin plumped down his load of money at her feet. True, all that happened just now was something ephemeral, romantic and unseemly, but there was color in it and originality. You must admit that. My God, what might not be made of such a character with such beauty? But in spite of all effort, in spite of her education even, it's all lost. She is an uncut diamond. I've said so several times." And Afanasy Ivanovitch sighed deeply. Next one. "The essence of religious feeling does not come under any sort of reasoning or atheism, and has nothing to do with any crimes or misdemeanor." There is something else here, and there will always be something else. Something that the atheists will forever slur over. They will always be talking of something else. But the chief thing is that you will notice it more clearly and quickly in the Russian heart than anywhere else. And this is my conclusion. It's one of the chief convictions which I've gathered from Russia. There is work to be done. Another quote. What was he to make of that reality? For the very thing had happened. He actually had said to himself at that second that for the infinite happiness he had felt in it, that second really might be well worth the whole life. That second really might well be worth the whole of life. Just living in the moment. I'll read the quote again. What was he to make of that reality? For the very thing had happened. He actually had said to himself at that second that for the infinite happiness he had felt in it, that second really might well be worth the whole of life. And I believe I don't have any more quotes because I stopped reading around this area. Dostoevsky loves to yap, and I no longer had any more patience for that, but I find this book incredibly beautiful, and I highly recommend everyone read it, especially maybe up to maybe in the middle of it. It's a very long book. I didn't successfully finish it, but I really love the quotes in this book. I've highlighted and annotated this book. Really love this book. Highly, highly recommend. I will give it a 5 out of 10 just because I didn't finish the book. It was far too long. Sorry, Dostoevsky. You write you write like a maniac who's been isolated from society for centuries. Like I cannot bring myself to completely finish this book. But the quotes that I've read, they're just incredible. I love the way the idiot loves and views women. And he truly gets them. And I like the social critique that some selflessness, this genuine selflessness, this serene selflessness, this peaceful selflessness is so irritating to society that they call him an idiot. And that just shows how selfish society is, right? All right, thank you guys for listening to my series and I think I'm going to call this just looking into books. I really like books, and I really like quotes from them, and I think the analysis should include the original prose, the original beautiful writing. I believe this is a work in translation, and the original is in Russian. So this is The Idiot by Fyodor Dostoevsky, translated by Constance Garnett. So shout out Constance for having this incredible prose. And I wanted to share this beautiful prose with everyone and give some reflection on some of them, but a lot of them are very standalone quotes that I just wanted you to be able to listen to. All right, until next time, Malika Chatapatay.